Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something that's really kind of the unsung hero of modern cars. I mean, it's not something you necessarily think about when you're, behind the wheel, but it's absolutely essential. Automotive embedded systems.
Yeah, you could almost call it the digital brain of your car.
Exactly. It's all the intricate hardware and software working together, making sure everything runs smoothly.
Right. It controls so much, like how the engine performs, the navigation system that gets you where you need to go.
And increasingly, those advanced safety features that are becoming so common, like automatic emergency braking, lane departure warnings, all that.
All crucial stuff.
Absolutely. And to really get a good grasp on this whole world of automotive embedded systems, we're going to be looking at a recent market report. The global automotive embedded systems market size will be USD 200 and 658.5 million in 2025. It's from Cognitive Market Research.
Great report. Lots of insights in there.
Yeah, it really is. So what we want to do today is kind of take you through this report, break it down, and highlight what we think are the key takeaways. What are the big trends? What's the overall market size? What's driving the growth? And how does all this play out in different parts of the world?
Yeah, it's a global story for sure.
It really is. And, just to give you a taste of what we're talking about, this report tells us that in 2025, this whole market for automotive embedded system is going to be worth almost USD 30 billion. That's huge. But here's the thing. By 2033, they're projecting it to be over USD 51 billion. That's a pretty impressive jump, right?
Definitely.
And, a lot of that growth is being driven by things like AD, those advanced driver assistance systems we talked about.
Right. Yeah, those are really taking off.
Okay, so let's get into the details. Let's start with that initial market size, that almost USD 30 billion figure for 2025. What does that actually tell us?
Well, it shows that even now, embedded systems are already a core part of the automotive industry. It's not some small niche thing. It's a big deal. And that projected growth reaching over USD 51 billion by 2033.
Growing at an average of 6.7% every year.
Yeah, exactly. That shows that this is going to be a really significant and sustained expansion. What I like about this report is they use 2024 as their base year for these projections.
Oh, okay.
And they've got historical data going back to 2021, so it's not, just a bunch of guesses. It's based on actual market activity.
Okay, so this isn't just some theoretical future. It's already happening.
Exactly.
So let's look at where all this is happening. How does this market break down when we look at different regions of the world?
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. You see, right now, North America has the biggest chunk of this market. They're generating over 40% of the global revenue.
Wow, so North America is really leading the pack?
Yep. The report estimates their market size in 2025 is going to be around USD 11.86 billion, and they're looking at a growth rate of about 6.4% every year until 2033.
Okay, so within North America, which countries are really driving this?
Well, the big one is the United States. No
Mm.
surprise there. Their market size in 2025 is expected to be about USD 9.36 billion.
Wow.
Their projected growth rate's a little bit lower, around 6.2%, but still very strong.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing is the report specifically calls out the growing focus on automotive cybersecurity in the U.S. as a key driver for this growth.
Yeah, that makes sense. With all the connectivity in cars these days.
Right, and it's raising concerns about data security, potential
Oh, yeah.
vulnerabilities, that kind of
Sure,
thing.
okay.
Now, Canada has a smaller market size, around USD 1.42 billion in 2025, but they've got a slightly higher growth rate, 7.2%. And the report says a lot of that is because of government regulations pushing for safer vehicles. And then you have Mexico, which has a market size of, let me see, just over USD 1 billion in 2025 with a 6.9% growth rate.
Okay, so it sounds like across North America, we're seeing the same basic trends. Advancements in the core technologies, people really wanting those ADI safety features,
Yeah,
and that ongoing shift towards electric vehicles, right?
you got it. Now let's hop over to Europe. They're the second largest market globally for automotive embedded systems.
Okay.
They make up more than 30% of global revenue. Their market size in 2025 is projected to be around USD 8.9 billion, with an estimated growth rate of 6.7% per year.
So, still a really substantial market.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which countries in Europe are the main players?
Well, Europe's a little bit more diverse than North America,
Hmm.
more countries, different rules and regulations and all that. But the UK's got a market size of almost USD 1.5 billion with a strong growth rate of 7.5%. The report points to the growing use of over-the-air software updates as a big driver for them.
Oh, interesting. So like how our phones get software updates.
Yeah, exactly. But for cars, and it's becoming really important, with all the software in modern vehicles.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, Germany, being kind of the heart of the European car industry, they've got a bigger market, about USD 1.76 billion, and their growth rate's around 6.9%. And that's being driven a lot by consumer demand, people really wanting all those smart connected features in their cars. And
Right.
then you have France, Italy, Russia, and Spain. They're all significant players, too, each with their own unique situations. It's worth mentioning that Luxembourg and Greece are also showing really strong growth projections, which means, even smaller markets are getting in on this.
So even though Europe's got its own variations, the basic drivers seem to be pretty similar to what's happening in North America.
Right. You've got the demand for safety features, ADS, that increasing connectivity.
And of course, the move towards electric vehicles.
Exactly. Okay, so now let's shift gears and head over to Asia Pacific. This is where things get really interesting. Right now, they've got about 23% of the global market. So their market size in 2025 is estimated to be around USD 6.8 billion. But the thing is, they're projected to have the highest growth rate of any region, a whopping 10.2% per year between 2025 and 2033.
Wow, 10.2%. That's a huge jump.
It is.
What's going on in Asia Pacific that's making it such a hotbed for these automotive embedded systems?
Well, there's a lot happening there, all sort of feeding into each other.
Yeah.
You've got China, which is a major player. Their market size in 2025 is estimated to be around USD 2.87%. And a lot of that's because they're pushing really hard to develop autonomous vehicle technology.
I see.
Then there's India. Their market's starting from a smaller base, around USD 818 million in 2025. But they're seeing an incredible growth rate of 12%. And that's being fueled by, more and more AI and machine learning being used in car applications. And you've also got Japan, South Korea, Australia, and Southeast Asia all showing really strong growth as well.
Yeah.
The report points to a few key factors driving this. More people adopting technology in general, big demand for electric vehicles, government support for autonomous driving, people having more money to spend, and supportive government policies across the region. It's like all the right ingredients coming together.
Yeah, it sounds like Asia Pacific's on its way to becoming a dominant force in this market.
Definitely.
Now, what about other parts of the world, like Latin America and the Middle East and Africa? Where do they fit into all this?
Okay, so Latin America has a little over 5% of the global market.
Mm.
Their market size in 2025 is expected to be around USD 1.48 billion, and they're projected to grow at about 7.6% per year. Brazil and Argentina are the big markets there.
Okay.
The big drivers for them are a desire for better fuel efficiency and a growing focus on safety features and automation.
Right.
Now, the Middle East and Africa, they've got a smaller share right now, around 2%. So their market size in 2025 is about USD 593 million, but they're still growing at a decent clip, 7.9% a year. The GCC countries and South Africa are the main players there. And what's driving their growth is basically a demand for more advanced technology in cars, a growing automotive sector overall, and, that trend toward electric vehicles and autonomous driving we're seeing everywhere.
So it sounds like even though the speed and the specific reasons for growth vary around the world, every region's seeing an increase in demand for automotive embedded systems.
Yep, that's the big takeaway.
Now, this report goes even deeper, and it looks at different segments of this market. Like, what types of vehicles are we talking about? What are the specific components involved? And how are the systems actually being used?
Right. It breaks it down really well.
Let's start with vehicle type. What kind of vehicles are leading the charge in terms of embedded systems?
Well, passenger vehicles are definitely the kings of the hill when it comes to embedded systems. It's mainly because there are just so many passenger cars on the road, right?
Yeah.
And people want more and more features that make their cars safer, more connected, and, just more enjoyable to drive. Embedded systems are key to all that. They're running the infotainment systems, the ADS, and the complex systems that control electric vehicles and future self-driving cars.
So passenger vehicles are the biggies. What about other types of vehicles? Is there anything interesting happening there?
Yeah, actually, the report highlights off-road vehicles as the fastest growing segment, although it's starting from a smaller base than passenger vehicles, obviously.
Yeah.
But for off-road vehicles, embedded systems are all about making them perform better, last longer, and be safer in tough conditions. So think about things like sophisticated engine control units that can handle rough terrain, stability management systems to prevent rollovers, and specialized navigation systems for, off-road driving.
Right. So SUVs, trucks, even those big vehicles used in farming and construction, those
Exactly.
tough environments need tough tech.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about the components that actually make up these embedded systems. What are the big players in this market?
Well, right now, sensors are the dominant component.
Yeah.
And that's not really surprising when you think about it. I mean, sensors are like the eyes and ears of a modern vehicle.
Yeah.
They're what provide all that real-time data that makes ADAS work, that's driving the development of autonomous driving. And even that's used to, just monitor the basic health of the car.
Right.
And there's so many different types of sensors. There are sensors that detect potential crashes, sensors that make sure you're staying in your lane, sensors that check your tire pressure, sensors for parking assistance.
Right.
And, the demand for even more advanced sensor technology like LiDAR and radar is only going to grow.
So what about the component that's growing the
Oh,
fastest?
that's microcontrollers or
Huh.
MCUs. You can think of them as tiny little brains inside the car. They
Okay.
take all the data coming in from the sensors and use it to control different functions. MCUs are used for everything from managing the engine and the infotainment system to, things like the headlights and the climate control. As cars become more and more reliant on electronics, we need these MCUs to be more powerful and more efficient.
So the sensors collect information about the car and the environment, and then the MCUs basically decide what to do with it.
Right.
Now, what about the overall type of embedded system? Are we talking more about the hardware or the software?
Right now, embedded hardware is the bigger part of the market. That includes all the physical stuff, the MCUs, the processors, the sensors, and the actuators that actually carry out the instructions.
Right.
But the report says that embedded software is the fastest growing segment. And that's the code, the operating systems, the applications, the firmware, everything that makes that hardware actually work. Embedded software controls everything from the infotainment system on your dashboard to the navigation system, the engine control unit, and all the critical safety features. And as cars become more connected and more automated, this software is becoming even more important for making sure everything works together smoothly, safely, and reliably.
So basically, the software is what unlocks the full potential of all that fancy hardware.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about how the type of engine affects this market. Are we seeing differences between traditional gasoline engines and electric vehicles?
Right now, most of the embedded systems are still going into vehicles with internal combustion engines, those traditional gasoline-powered cars.
Yeah.
And these systems, they handle all sorts of functions specific to those kinds of engines, controlling the engine itself, managing the powertrain and emissions, and handling the infotainment and safety features too. But, as you might expect, electric vehicles are the fastest growing segment here. EVs need a whole new set of embedded systems that are specifically designed to, manage the batteries, control the electric motor, make regenerative braking work, and just make sure the car uses energy as efficiently as possible. So you have battery management systems, power control units, charging control units. All these are really important for how well an EV performs, and they're a lot more complex than the systems in traditional gas-powered cars.
So as we transition to more and more EVs, we're going to need more and more sophisticated embedded systems.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the different types of vehicles and the components that make up these systems. Now let's look at how they're actually being used.
Right.
What are the main ways that these embedded systems are being applied in vehicles today?
Well, right now, the biggest application area is vehicle tracking systems. These systems use GPS and Internet of Things or IoT connectivity to figure out where a vehicle is in real time. It's really helpful for managing fleets of vehicles and improving security. And they can do things like optimize routes, help prevent theft, and just make it easier to keep track of all your vehicles. Plus, with AI and machine learning, they can even do things like predictive maintenance.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so they can actually try to figure out when a vehicle is going to need maintenance before anything actually breaks down.
That's pretty cool. Now, which application is growing the fastest?
That would be parking management systems. These are all about making it easier to find a parking spot, especially in cities. They use sensors, cameras, and software to keep track of which spots are open, guide drivers to those open spots, and even handle payments automatically. It's all about reducing that annoying time you spend driving around looking for parking and making the most out of the parking spaces we have.
Yeah, I think anyone who's ever gotten lost in a parking garage can appreciate that.
Definitely.
Now, this report also dives into the specific safety systems that rely on embedded systems. Which ones are leading the way right now?
Adaptive Cruise Control, or ACC, is the dominant safety system in this market. It's a core part of those ADS systems we talked about earlier. ACC makes driving safer and less tiring, especially on long trips. It automatically adjusts your speed to keep you a safe distance from the car in front of you. And as we move towards more self-driving cars, ACC is getting even more advanced.
Right.
The newer systems can handle stop-and-go traffic, and they're using radar and machine learning to work even better.
Okay, so ACC is the big one right now. Which safety system is experiencing the fastest growth in terms of embedded technology?
It's actually the airbag system, which is kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, airbags have been around for a while.
Right. But they're still evolving really quickly. Modern airbags now have all these different side airbags, curtain airbags, even knee airbags.
Hmm.
And they're using really sophisticated sensors that can figure out how bad a crash is, how big the person is, where they're sitting, all that stuff in real time.
Wow,
And that helps them make sure the airbag deploys in the best way possible to protect people.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And all that innovation is driven by stricter safety rules and, of course, people wanting to be as safe as possible if they do get into an accident.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about different types of vehicles, the components that make up these systems, how they're being used. Now, what are the big underlying forces that are driving all this growth in the automotive embedded systems market?
The report highlights a few key drivers.
Mm.
First, you've got the growth of electric vehicle production all around the world.
Right.
And they need all that charging infrastructure, too. All that's creating huge demand for advanced embedded systems.
Makes sense.
Second, you've got this global focus on safety and security features in vehicles. It's really pushing the adoption of ADS and other safety-related systems. And finally, there are all the advancements in AI and machine learning. They're really starting to change how car systems work.
Right.
They're making self-driving cars possible, improving predictive maintenance, and making the whole user experience in cars much better.
So it sounds like a lot of exciting stuff is happening, but, with any rapid innovation and growth, there are always challenges. Are there any big roadblocks that this market faces?
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest is just the cost of developing these complex embedded systems.
Okay.
You need a lot of money to research, design, and test them. You need skilled engineers. It's a big investment. Another challenge is, well, trying to integrate these new systems with all the other electronics that are already in modern vehicles.
Right. It's already so complex.
Yeah, it's like a big electronic puzzle.
Hmm.
And making sure all these systems can talk to each other and work together reliably, well, it's not easy.
Sounds like a big engineering challenge.
It is.
Now, looking ahead, what are some of the trends that are likely to shape the future of automotive embedded systems?
Well, one big trend is just the continued improvement of infotainment systems. People want their cars to be as cool and connected as their phones. So we're going to see a lot of innovation in things like in-car entertainment, navigation systems,
Hmm.
and all those ways that cars connect to the internet.
Okay.
Another crucial trend is cybersecurity. As cars get more and more connected to the internet and to each other, they also become more vulnerable to hacking and data breaches. So making sure these systems are secure is absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. It's not just about convenience and cool features anymore. It's also about safety and security.
Exactly.
Finally, what does the competitive landscape look like? Who are the companies that are really driving innovation in this market?
Well, there's a lot of competition in this market. There are a lot of different players. On the hardware side, you've got the big semiconductor manufacturers like Intel, NXP Semiconductors, Infineon Technologies, and Texas Instruments. They're the ones making the chips and processors and all that.
Right.
And then on the software side, you have companies like Wind River, BlackBerry QNX, and Denso. They're developing the operating systems, the applications, and the platforms that make all this hardware work. And there's constant innovation happening, in autonomous driving, infotainment systems, ADS, and all those systems that are specific to electric vehicles.
It sounds like a really dynamic and fast-paced market.
It definitely is.
So to wrap it all up for you, our listeners, the global market for automotive embedded systems is growing rapidly. A lot of that growth is being driven by ADS, those advanced safety and driver assistance features, and by the shift towards electric vehicles. We've seen how this market is playing out in different parts of the world, with Asia Pacific emerging as a major player. We've talked about the different types of vehicles, the components involved, and the ways these systems are being used.
And it's important to remember that this isn't just about numbers, market size and growth rates. What we're really talking about is a fundamental change in how cars are designed and built. These embedded systems are what's making cars safer, more efficient, more connected, and ultimately smarter.
I totally agree. And that brings us to a final thought we'd like to leave you with. As all this technology becomes more and more advanced and integrated into our vehicles, what bigger implications might there be? What does it mean for our relationship with these increasingly intelligent machines that we're driving? How will it affect our daily lives and society as a whole? It's something worth thinking about as we move further into this future of transportation.
I agree. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it and how it impacts our lives.
Well said. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you on the next one.